Happy third day of Freddy Fazbear's 10th anniversary. The main event of today is FNAF's first interactive novel, VIP. This is the 0th installment in FNAF's newest lineup of interactive novels, which will include the Phone Guy book and the Return to the Pit interactive novel later this year. Think of this as a proof of concept to set up this style of book for the next two. But that isn't all it does. If you choose to believe it, this story tells us a lot about the ever mysterious Pizzaplex. It's also just a good book, and the interactive aspect works way better than I expected, and I'm super excited for the next two based on what we saw in this book. Skip to this timestamp if you don't want any story spoilers and just want the interesting lore tidbits. First, let's get a basic rundown of the story of the book, if you don't want to read all of that. We play as a teenager named Devin, who has recently received an email saying he's won 2 free VIP passes to the Pizzaplex. The only downside is that you have to watch over your 6-year-old brother Ike all day. When you put your VIP card into a kiosk, an AI named VIP, which stands for Very Informative Pig, appears on screen. He's a lot like Helpy in Ruin. He knows everything about the Pizzaplex and can jump to any screen in the building. Apparently he sounds like a kid with a stuffy nose, so whatever you imagine the nerd emoji to sound like should be pretty accurate. He says that he's been at the Pizzaplex for a while, but doesn't get activated very often. He also tells Devin that he was the one who sent him the VIP passes, since Devin lived within 5 miles of the Pizzaplex and hadn't been there in several months. Now I just want to say, this is really creepy. The idea of an AI from a giant theme park sending out free passes to kids that don't visit often enough, especially kids that live nearby, that's very off. This is what you would get if William Appleton and the Duolingo owl had a kid together. VIP is supposed to guide you through the Pizzaplex to give you the best experience possible. But in reality, if you follow his instructions right off the bat, he leads you to a storage room deep in the Pizzaplex and locks you and Ike inside forever. There are also some other points in the story where he tries to lead you to one of these rooms if you let him, and you have to avoid letting him trick you into that. Eventually, you leave Ike behind at the carousel from Help Wanted 2. And yes, it is specifically described to be exactly the same as the carousel from Help Wanted 2's carousel minigame. While Devin is playing Catch That Fetch, a very angry VIP appears on every screen in the Pizzaplex and tells Devin that he has hidden Ike somewhere in the Pizzaplex, and that Devin will have to play a game to get his brother back. You see, VIP is very clingy, to say the least. He wanted Devin to promise him that he would stick with him for the entire time. So when Devin ditched Ike and left him with VIP, he got extremely angry. So Devin has absolutely no choice but to accept VIP's offer and play his game to get his brother back. And in VIP's game, you have to win 1,000 points with the 5 Faz tokens that he gives you before the end of the day. And VIP also says that he isn't gonna let Devin leave until he completes the game. You can win points by buying a balloon from Balloon Boy, playing Chica's Party Crane, completing Monty Maze, winning in Roxy Raceway, or beating Freddy in Phaser Blast. You can do this in whatever order you choose, and you can either win nothing, win 100 points when you succeed, or win 300 points if you do really well. It's pretty easy to get the 1,000 points, at which VIP will keep his promise and return your brother, but this isn't a satisfying ending because you know that VIP is just going to do this to other kids in the future. If you really want to end this, you have to stop him. Another thing to note is that VIP has done this before. Whenever you do fall for his trick and go into the storage room, there are already deceased bodies in that room, and there's a bit of a smell as well. So this is an ongoing problem that needs to be stopped. One funny little detail that really speaks to VIP's character is that at one point when Devin tries to give him a 1-star review at the end of the day, he just makes 5 stars appear on the screen and says, "Thank you for giving me 5 stars, Devin." That's how he is. Early on, you can find a door with VIP's name on it, but he says you need 100,000 points to get in. This is how you get the good ending. Now obviously it shouldn't be possible to get 100,000 points with 5 tokens, but there is a way to do it. At one point at this terminal, you can find a Glamrock Freddy head that you can put on, and it turns out it's also a VR headset, and it's called the Maximum Occupancy Experience. It's an experimental technology made to give kids a fun experience if the Pizzaplex is too crowded or if their favorite attractions are shut down. It has an exact replica of the Pizzaplex in VR. Everything is exactly the same except all points are multiplied by 10. And on top of that, you can put on a VR headset within the VR world and go multiple layers deep. And if you go 2 or more layers deep, any points you earn are multiplied by 100. This allows you to get 100,000 points pretty easily, granting you access to VIP's room. It's a server room, and his nice alter ego known as Virtually Informative Pig helps you unplug his server and shut him down. This lets Ike out of the photo booth he's been trapped in and stops VIP from luring and trapping any more children once and for all. The end. That's the basic rundown of the story, but there are a bunch of cool security breach lore details sprinkled into the story, and I'm not exaggerating that, like the one about the carousel in the play area being exactly the same as the one from Help Wanted 2. And Tom made a fantastic Twitter thread pointing out all of the lore details he found in VIP, and I'll mention his name every time I use information I learned from part of his thread. The funniest part of the entire story by far is when Devin's mom says that one of the Pizzaplex's marketing campaigns called itself the safest place on earth. The story mentions that the Pizzaplex is always getting bigger and adding new attractions, which seems like a line thrown in intentionally to explain why in the Tales from the Pizzaplex books there are a bunch of attractions described that weren't in Security Breach. There's a balloon boy in Rockstar Row that inflates a balloon out of his right hand, which seems awfully similar to what Baby is able to do.
She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips.
Combine that with the fact that Balloon Boy is a circus-themed human animatronic, with the exact same nose as Baby, and it makes it hard not to believe Balloon Boy was built as part of the same lineup as Baby. At one point, Devin says he wishes there was a daycare he could drop Ike off at, and the VIP says they are planning to add a daycare in an upcoming expansion. And there's also no mention of Sun or Moon. This tells us that the daycare and the daycare attendant weren't initially at the Pizzaplex, and that this takes place a good bit before Security Breach. This is backed up once again by the fact that Glamrock Bonnie is a main band member in this story. You run across his green room if you choose to explore Rockstar Row early on, and it's specifically mentioned that Monty doesn't have his own green room yet. His attraction is Monty Maze, which is built exactly the same as Monty Golf. According to VIP, Fazbear Entertainment has considered turning Monty Maze into a mini golf course at some point in the future. Once again, this is before Security Breach. Tom made another amazing observation. Monty's job in this book is to stalk children through Monty Maze to make the experience more challenging. If he catches a kid, he carries them back to the start and they lose. According to an employee, he drags children out of the maze when he's in a bad mood, which is pretty funny in an awful kind of way. The interesting thing is he uses the voice lines from Security Breach when searching for children in the maze, implying that his searching behavior in Security Breach is leftover programming from his Monty Maze days. You're able to throw Bonnie bites at Monty to distract him at certain points in the story, and the image of Bonnie makes Monty angry, meaning he has a jealous hatred of Bonnie at this point in the story. There's a VR headset called the Maximum Occupancy Experience made to give kids something to do if the Pizzaplex was too crowded or under maintenance. This is probably an early version of the Vanny technology from Ruin and the VR booth from Tales from the Pizzaplex. Another interesting detail brought up by Tom is the complete lack of staff bots in the story, telling us that they were probably added in the same construction that added the daycare and the daycare attendant. Freddy is hardly present in this story, but he's unique in that he's the nicest animatronic here, never getting angry at Devin and even telling him to watch out for VIP. Catch That Fetch is one of Devin's favorite games, and it's one of the specific obscure props found in Security Breach. Once again, there's an odd amount of detail connecting this version of the Pizzaplex with the Security Breach one, if not also the one from the books as well. At least two of these locations are the same, if not all of them. The last thing I thought to mention is that there is absolutely no mention of Vanny or Vanny technology in this story, implying that she didn't show up at all until around the Security Breach era. Now I know those were a lot of details to go through, so here's the TLDR on that part. It seems like the lack of Sun, Moon, and Vanny is trying to show us that Security Breach happens after VIP, and the line about the Pizzaplex frequently adding new attractions explains the extra attractions seen in Tales from the Pizzaplex, like a roller coaster and a giant VR booth. I think it's saying that the Tales from the Pizzaplex story come a lot later in the timeline. We know that Monty always hated Bonnie and that he was originally built to chase kids in Monty Maze, which later became Monty Golf. This seems to imply that Monty was in fact the one who decommissioned Bonnie. If you're still watching, thank you. I plan on doing a lot more stuff for FNAF's 10th anniversary, so stay tuned. And big thanks to these very important people, my channel members. And with that, my shift is over. I'll catch you on the flip side.